I thought to be a man, you just push through it. You just push through it. The Protestant work ethic, you just suck it up. And if you make enough money and you do enough right things, eventually you'll be happy. That doesn't work.
That's the big question of this episode is, am I in the right spot for myself? Am I in the right environment for myself that can allow for the greatest level of...
That is, what you just said there is key. Like, you've got to make moves for you.
All right, guys, welcome back to the show. I'm here with Coach Ron. We have an exciting discussion here. We were just chatting about living in the right environment for you, not being afraid of letting go of past identities and being courageous enough to move into the identity and the lifestyle and the environment that is most aligned with who you are.
Speaking about that, it's sort of one of those things where when one door closes, another door opens, right? But you have to have the courage to step forth and open that door, right? You can't have one foot left somewhere and not being able to commit. And that's a fear factor, right? That's that whole thing of pushing your boundaries, right? You push outside your comfort zone. You know, so many of us live in this area where, well, I'm comfortable. I know the town, I know the place, I know the environment, but it doesn't really suit them. But then they can't get the courage up to like make that step. There's some guys, gals, both, they can't even get the courage up to go and adventure somewhere else, right? They live in fear or perpetual fear of the unknown, which is maybe not, they're not frightened. They're fearful of the unknown.
I have seen from my own life, my friends' lives, even other coaches on our team and many clients, that the physical uprooting of your life and getting in a car, selling stuff is such a liberating feeling, stuff you've been holding on to for years or decades. And actually moving into this new location can be such a powerful shift in like truly owning your identity, truly owning who you want to be by actually uprooting your life. It can sometimes be very difficult to lean into who you want to be and the life you want when you're still surrounded by the same environment, the same people, the same objects, the same everything. It makes you feel like you're almost stuck in this identity that does not align with where you want to go. And I know for you, you've had a significant move in your life.
Absolutely.
Tell us, where are you from originally?
Well, actually from Northern Nevada, Reno, right outside of Reno, Nevada, about 70 miles outside of Reno, like a little tiny town. Went from there to Sacramento in the Bay Area. Actually went to grad school first, went to grad school down in Los Angeles, lived 5 years in Los Angeles, came back up to Sacramento, San Francisco area, lived there for 23 years.
So several decades in Northern California.
Mm-hmm.
Do you identify as a Californian?
No, I always identified as a Nevadan, especially coming back to Vegas. You're like, no, really, I'm from Nevada. Please don't shoot at
You're like, I'm also kind of crazy. Like, I belong here.
No, yeah, absolutely. But to the point you said earlier is people, if they can't let go, it's like having a job and you identify as I'm a baker or identify as a doctor, and that's your whole identity, right?
Yeah.
When it really, that shouldn't be you. I mean, you might be a baker or a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, but you still need to be you. You need to find yourself. You know, I'm Ron, you're Andrew, but then we still do this, but that doesn't encompass all of our identity. And I think when you're in a place, when you're trying to really change and find yourself, you find yourself mired down in what has been your past or what has been something that you're trying to alter or change. It is kind of stuck to you, right? You live in the same place with the same people and the same stuff. And it doesn't mean that's bad. It's just when you're really trying to go, hey, I really want to find myself and find the true version of me. I'm a big advocate of a change in space, even if it's just a change of space temporarily to kind of get your head straight, right? Because when you're stuck in the same environment, you're continually re-stimulating things. And a lot of those times those things aren't beneficial, aren't what you're looking for.
For me, I was born in San Diego. I grew up in Temecula, California, which is a wine country. It's just picture perfect suburban town, clean, good schools, riding bikes, sports, all this. It's just a good place to grow up, not much to do after. And for me, moving from Temecula into San Diego was a big shift in just the people that I was associating with and going to college. And I always grew up thinking I was like one of the top guys, like just as far as like a go getter type of guy. But when I put myself in San Diego, I was really just another one of the people in college. And I didn't actually stand out all that much in college. And that was a big shocker for me as it just forced me to elevate my game so much. That was in San Diego and surrounding myself with entrepreneurs. But that shift from a smaller town into a bigger town, and then that's like one type of a move. And then there's also the type of environmental shift where you're not just in San Diego, but you find the neighborhood or the community within that town that then suits who you are and where you want to go. Because even if you're, let's say, in San Diego, you can have a completely different experience where I am right now on the coast versus another guy who's more inland, or versus a guy who's living downtown, or versus a guy who's living on the border of Mexico, or versus a guy who lives out in the desert. These are all areas of San Diego. You have desert, you have snow in the county of San Diego. You have so many different environments. And so for it doesn't have to be a state move or a country move, although that would add significant value. Even I think within your city, there are environments that could just be 10, 15, 20 minutes away from you that could provide a whole new level for you to live more in alignment with who you want to be.
No, absolutely. San Diego's a large place. Vegas, 2.5 million people here. Northern California, San Francisco, you could go 10, 15 minutes away and have a completely different, almost like a village. It's completely different. There's different culture. There's a different vibe. There's different people. And you do have to find that. And you're right. You don't have to cruise across the country. You can be like, hey, I really like San Diego. I like the weather. I like, it's temperate, but this doesn't fit me. And I think there's a lot of guys that they're fearful or they don't really put enough credence in, am I in the right spot for myself?
That's the big question of this episode is, am I in the right spot for myself? Am I in the right environment for myself that can allow for the greatest level of growth? We talk about levers, like pull this lever to then allow X type of growth to occur, whether it's like, okay, I'm going to work on a fitness journey. That's like a lever for fitness. I'm going to work on this area of my business and go all in on business. Like I'm pulling the business lever. And there's also a lever of environment. Is your environment, have you pulled that lever that then allows for great levels of growth in your life? Like, are you in the right environment? And so you could be a guy who's single and you're struggling and you are in the wrong environment for being a single guy. Like you are in a family suburban community, but it's nice, it's safe, and you bought a condo or you bought a nice home, you got a good deal, and you feel stuck because you're like, well, I got this great place, but it doesn't suit where you are in life. Or you could be a guy in a relationship who's stuck in an environment surrounded in the wrong area that's not conducive for being in a relationship or being, family oriented. And that's what we're getting at is like these things that hold us back from going into the right environment that would allow for massive amounts of growth.
I'll tell you a funny story on that line. When I first joined Project Ground Man as a coach, I think you and I did one of the group calls together. And one of the first ones, there was a fella in there that was, I don't know if you recall, he's living on the side of a mountain in South Carolina. There was like a town of like 100 people. He had dated
I did. I remember either this guy or there's many guys like this. I know where you're going.
He's still on my call every Tuesday. He's still on there. But the point being is, you talk to him about, you've got to be in the right spot, man. You're a single guy. You're a software engineer. You're living in a town of 100 people. And his whole thing is, well, I can work remotely. I'm like, well, go work remotely in a place where people are. And when I take I make the joke, we had to talk him off the side of a mountain. Literally was on a mountain, went down and was one of the small cities. Was like, oh, this is great. So point being in that, he's like, oh, I like this, but it's just not the right area for me. Ended up moving all the way across country to Montana. And he found his purpose. He found himself. He found his environment. Like there was so much joy in just the things in the area that he went to. Every part of his life started to click. And I'm not saying you got to pick up and move across the country, but really need to, you talk about the levers. And I always tell the guys that I said, there's levers in your life that you wake up every morning, boom, and you bang your head on that lever and you're like, oh, I don't want to pull that one today. That's a lot of work and there's a lot of stuff. So we kind of duck that lever. I think where we live sometimes is that lever. We know inherently, I think a lot of the guys are like, I don't know. I got a house, I got a condo here, got a wife, got a life, got a so and so, but it's not the wife, life, condo place that they really want to be. And then, if they could just push their boundaries a little bit and say, well, where do I really want to be? What do I like doing? What areas? And there's a lot of value in exploring, even if you have no intention to move anywhere. Take a road trip, get on a plane, get in your car and go cruise and go, is there something else out there? Being curious, right? I always tell guys all the time, guys, be curious, man. Is there something else out there? Is there something else? Is there something more? Instead of just being so dogmatic or like, this is all there is. Life's amazing. The world's huge. There's a lot of stuff that you and I both and 100 of us together will never see. But hey, if you have this inkling that you're trying to find yourself, I'm telling you, there's no better way than a road trip or jump on a plane.
Absolutely. And I believe I know exactly who you're talking about, or there are many other clients like that where they bring forth these problems that almost cannot be solved because of the environment they are in. Like, we cannot solve your problem. Like, even I would struggle. Even Brad Pitt would struggle in your location.
I think he was dating. It was a dating thing. And
It's a dating thing and a social life thing. And it was like his town was very small. It was, I don't know if it was 100, but it was something very small that it was like, well, anyone is going to struggle. And plus, the type of people who live in that type of environment are optimizing for that type of thing, which is, they just want a small, like, quiet life. They won't be left alone for the most part.
The comment you got him on when he said, well, dating, what do you do? I've dated all the girls in this town. And I don't think he meant it figuratively. I think
he's like, there's like 7 girls. I dated all of them. Yeah. And that's a very good extreme example. But even for guys who are in towns of 30,000, 40,000, 50,000, like, if they're single or even in relationships, it's just like, are you in the right environment? And his thing and many other guys' things is, I'm saving so much money. Like, I found this thing and it may have suited him for a period of time, but I think we really have to challenge this. Like, what is the purpose of money? Like, you're literally doing nothing with your life after work. Like, you look like your life is progressing in your savings account. You're investing your 401k, you're excelling when you're working remote. But once you log off and your life after 4, 5, 6 p.m., your life is lame. You are going to likely fall into vices. You're also not developing in these other areas of life with your social skills, your relationship skills, having social experiences. It's like when you are encountering people, you're like, whoa, like, it's this weird thing to you as you are socially just out of touch. Or if you see a beautiful woman and you don't see that regularly and you freak out and like all the neediness and all the insecurities.
Oh my God, look at that. Yeah, it's like spotting a unicorn.
That's why you're one of the coaches. You just have such a really interesting experience, even in this particular conversation with your partner owning like a model agency. You're just around all these women. You're also in Vegas, but you live on the outskirts a bit. It's a very dynamic lifestyle you've created.
Oh yeah, but it's, again, it's testament to, you have to go create it. Like, if I'm living on the side of a mountain in South Carolina and it's a really cool home, I got a great deal, but I want to date, I want to meet people, I want to have experiences. You made the comment where you moved from Temecula and then you went to San Diego. You were like, oh, I'm not really that special. I'm not a standout anymore.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of value to that. There can be a lot of value because, if you're in this little small town, or you have a small place, or your identity is hooked to the place you live, or it's hooked to what you do, or it's hooked to the people around you. When in reality, your identity should be yours. And a lot of people, I don't think, ever really find themselves because they're just like, well, born here, I'm stay here. This is, and it's like kind of a what do they call it? Their lot in life, right? They're willing to push and do other things or join the program and work on themselves, but it almost seems like there's certain areas like, oh, well, I can't change that. And that might be the area. Get pushed out into an area where you don't stand out or you're not identified by where you are or what you do. Get pushed into an area that you have to go explore. You have to be curious. You have to go, wow, what's out here? because you know what, chances are you might find something you like. And a lot of people are lacking in the little small towns, or they're on a search for their own identity. Their geographic area is huge.
Even big towns. If you're from somebody from LA and you're moving out of LA for various reasons that I think many people are aware
I
of.
think they made a movie, didn't they? Escape from LA.
And it does. You could be in LA right now listening. You could be in San Francisco. You could be in a tougher area in San Diego, or you could even be in New York City with all like the whole migrant thing going on right now. There's so much like happening in your city that you may not agree with and or feel that there's any change happening, yet you're paying X amount in taxes. Like a big part of the deal in San Diego, Southern California is, there's high taxes, but we also have this amazing, beautiful weather and all these things. But when you can't go out, and a lot of the places you used to enjoy are now in tent cities and
uninhabitable. Yeah.
Uninhabitable. And it's like, oh, well, I'm not able to actually enjoy what I pay for. Before there was this sort of like, okay, I can justify it. And you might be living underneath something that you may not agree with, and it's stunting your ability to live your life. And if there are no changes, perhaps I'm curious about your situation. If you're in any place for several decades, that's a huge part of your life for very formative years as well. It's like, look, what happened? Like you weren't getting what you wanted, greater value. Is this before the pandemic or?
Well, I tell you, I tell the story all the time. I tell it especially to my new guys that come in. I was married for 21 years. I was a physician for 17, 18 years, practicing physician. I had practices in Sacramento, outskirts of Sacramento. I had a couple practices in Ohio. That's another story. I flew back and forth. And simultaneously, I had practices in Ohio, Northern California. But I was one of my self-inflicted victims of really not having my own identity. When I was young, one of the only things I ever got gifted with is a good brain. I went to undergrad, went to molecular biology. Oh, it was easy. Went through with, top honors in molecular biology. It was like, oh, we'll go to USC, go to USC Health Sciences. Went down there, got a doctoral degree because it was, quote, what you were supposed to do, right?
Yeah.
You're just supposed to go to school. You're supposed to get a degree. You're supposed to settle down, get married. And it was, no one twisted my arm, but I sort of just went with the flow, if that makes sense. And I went back to where my family was in Northern California. And I will tell you, honestly, after really some reflection over years, I knew immediately I should have never moved back. But I moved back because family was there, because my spouse at the time, his family was there. So I ended up in Sacramento in the Bay Area. And I did the best I could. Talk about the comments we're having today about really wanting to look where you feel, go where you feel you should be. I knew I never should be there, but I couldn't take that leap. And my leap came when like 3:15 in the afternoon in late May, 7 years ago, I walked in and told my wife I want a divorce. And between that, sold a house, sold 3 practices, and dropped a grenade. I did everything wrong, but I knew I didn't want to be there anymore. And I didn't have the steps to work through. So I decided I'll just lean on making money. So I walked away from everything, moved down towards the Bay, hung out there for about 2.5 years until I really realized Northern California is not where I belong. And I started looking. I went back to Northern Nevada, Reno. I went to Idaho, just went to look for some places. One thing I like is entertainment. I like food. I don't like the cold anymore. So Vegas, and I've been to Vegas a ton. I had friends down here, a family down here. And I thought, what? Let's go look at that. I was actually dating my now current wife. We came down here just to vacation and look around. Spent about 10 days here. And on the drive home, she looked at me and I'm like, what? She goes, let's do it. Let's do it. She's from Oregon area. She got transferred from her job down into the Bay Area. She wasn't a fan of it either. And so between about 3 months period of time, we thought, okay, we're going to sell everything. We're going to find a spot and we're going to relocate and start our life over again.
This is unpacking. This is a lot that happened here. How long did you feel about the divorce before you dropped, as you say, quote unquote, the grenade?
6 years.
6 years.
Easily 6, maybe 7. Yeah. I just went through and I tell guys this is why I'm so emphatic when I coach guys. Guys, listen, I know y'all somewhere in the same boat. Like I can't pull that lever. I can't get divorced. I can't fix this. I just, it's for the kids. It's for the career. It's for the money. I had the houses, boats, vacation homes, cars, truck, everything on paper looked good, except I just was miserable. And I thought to be a man, you just push through it. You just push through it. The Protestant work ethic, you just suck it up. And if you make enough money and you do enough right things, eventually you'll be happy. And in reality now, we know that doesn't work. So yeah, as I let it go, marriage deteriorated. Everything else, my level of happiness and what I wanted to do, I enjoyed being a physician. I didn't enjoy the healthcare system at all. So I just continue to begrudgingly go along. Like you said, the guy that lives in the small town, stack cash, make 401k big, bank account big. But in the meantime, you have no life. Sacramento, Northern California is not small, but it's not my place. And you could feel that. I think that's a big point. If a takeaway for these guys, you're watching this, you know that area is not right for you. You may not be able to put your finger on it, but it doesn't feel like the spot you're supposed to be. I'm from Northern Nevada in the desert. I always gravitated back to the desert. We recreated there, vacationed out there in the desert. I'm a big hunter and fisherman. And part of the decision-making algorithm when I got divorced down in the state of Northern California is I want to go back to where I feel like I belong.
Powerful quote. You had one on the last one. And here's another one I want to point out. You said, everything looked good on paper, except I feel crappy or I feel shitty inside.
I was miserable. I was miserable. I mean, I would go, I had great practices, but I would still work 50, 60 hours a week. And for the last 5 years, I was flying back and forth between Ohio and California.
What was missing? Were the practices just insane with stress, or were they not working? Were they not profitable?
Oh, they're profitable. They were profitable. I didn't want to work in the healthcare system anymore. Uh-huh. I didn't enjoy the healthcare system. One thing, and people say, wait, you're a doctor, you quit. Wow. Wait, roll with me on this. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. And I'll be honest, I'll be brutally honest, and not to offend anybody, but I got sick and tired of trying to help people that wouldn't help themselves. One, and then two, I really had a fundamental problem with putting monetary value on a person's healthcare and health. And not to get it down the healthcare aisle, but as far as finding when you're supposed to be, a guy that's got Cigna, Aetna, a guy that's got Medicaid, a guy that's got Medicare, and a guy that's cash, all pay 4 radically different rates for the exact same procedure. And I just couldn't, I got my ethics in line. I couldn't do that. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm a smart guy. I was investing in real estate. I can go do something else. And that's what part of the blow up and the grenade of the marriage, right? I said, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't want to be married anymore. I don't want to do this anymore. In a matter of 5.5 months, sold a house, got divorced, sold 3 practices, and moved to a different town.
Mm-hmm.
I probably could have thought it through better. But what I tell gentlemen a lot on calls is, well, when you see a lot of things piling up on you, when you see things that you aren't satisfied with or aren't happy with, being dishonest with yourself about confronting it, going, I'm not happy. I need to fix this. I need to make a change. That is what you have to start with. Because if you can't be honest with yourself, I promise you nothing else will work. And honest with where you want to be. Do I want to live in this area? Do I want to be here? Do I want to do this for a living? Do I want to be married to this person? Do I want these people in my life? I mean, sort of the underpinning of the entire program that you wrote, right? You got to be honest with self first, whether it's geolocation, whether it's who you're with, what you're doing.
Those are important things there. Just like, where do you live? If we're talking about environment, where do you live? What do you do for work? And who are you playing with? And I feel that you get those in line, or you get those in alignment, because it doesn't have to be like, oh, where I live is New York City, Miami, or it could actually be the guy in the mountain if he was in alignment with that, like if that's where he was, right? I think mountain, small town, that sounds very peaceful. It sounds like you probably live longer too.
Well, I grew up in a small town, so
certain times of life, maybe if you're older, like for the other people there, it might have actually worked for them. Like that's where they want to be. And then who are you playing with? Your partner, your social life, because you may have a social life and you're like, yeah, I have a social life, but these people are actually they may have served a purpose, but they're just super toxic for where you're at right now. And it's just going in the wrong direction. Or it is an alignment, but maybe your partner is out of alignment. So I think some things about thinking about your environment and how it shapes your life trajectory, your level of happiness and fulfillment. As you're sharing, I'm hearing things are just, it's like, because for somebody else that may have been it, because right, the practices, they may not have had the conflicts, and that may have been the goal, but for you it's out of alignment. And I think for a lot of people it's like they are successful because, as you said, like, I was good on paper but I was miserable. And that's a very common thing for people who are smart and hardworking and can look, write down goals and work towards them. You'll eventually hit the goal. But it's like you start stacking goals and you become addicted to goals. But like, are these things actually, do they even matter to you? You're just stacking cash, but like your life sucks, or your sex life sucks, but like you stare at your investment account go up, an extra 6% this month, and that's what gets you going.
You made a good point earlier when you said, there's some, it's cathartic to like sell everything, get rid of stuff, just get rid of things, let go and move and change. It's cathartic. It's therapeutic. It is, because so many people were, again, I'm stuck on my investment account. I'm stuck on my 401k. I'm stuck on my practice. I'm stuck because my wife's family lives here. And you keep using those justifications for, I'll never be able to get where I feel good and I'm happy. I will tell you, honest truth, up until 3 years ago, I had not felt a level of peace and happiness.
Wow.
Like, just, this is where I'm supposed to be. I enjoy it here. Every place has problems with things I don't like or difficulties, but in general, where I'm supposed to be, who I'm supposed to be with, and doing what I'm supposed to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you, those three things in alignment, Andrew, everything else will smooth itself out.
I think you'll want to be a great partner when it's aligned. It's like, it's easy to look at these things where it's like, hey, relationship habits. And you're like, yeah, of course. Like, I want to do it because it's in alignment. And sometimes guys won't do the most simple things. And it's like, maybe it's just not the girl for you. Like, maybe it's just so out of alignment that you can't even do these basic things in a relationship, or even with social life, or even at work. It's like, look, it's like it's so out of alignment that you don't even want to excel. You're just like, I don't even want more responsibility. I'm just under the radar, collecting the check, collecting the benefits, and off I go to other things. So that's huge.
That's a biggie. That's a big one. It's I don't want to call it a hat trick, but it's like going through the modules, right? You go through the modules and they're put together because you identify yourself first. Who are you? You identify, first three. Who are you? What you get to know yourself, and then you start to branch out into social and relationship. But the thing is, you have to be able to go, okay, relationship. Is this the relationship for me? And be honest with yourself about it, right? Is this job? Do I like my job? No, I effing hate my job. Blah, blah, but it pays good. Well, I would counter that you're never going to find true happiness if you're like, well, it sucks, I hate it, but it pays good. It's just, that's an honesty with self thing, right? I mean, it's hard. I'll validate people. It's hard to achieve, but I would challenge also, if you critically look at it and put effort into, I want to be in the right relationship. I want to be in a healthy relationship. Maybe I'll have to search for a new job or move to a place for a different job, but I want a job I like. And I don't want degenerate weirdo friends. I mean, I love my degenerate weirdo friends. We all have them, right? But I don't want people in my life that I'm not choosing to be in. Does that make sense?
100%.
Yeah. They're there because, oh my God, I got to hang out with him. No, you don't. No, you don't. You don't have to. Last time I checked, there's no like fun jail. The fun police aren't going to come get you, right? You can go, I choose. But a lot of guys' responses to that too are, well, it's hard to go and make friends. It's hard to go be social. And, if I just have these friends, if I just got rid of those, it would be, and I hear that and like my heart breaks. Like, sometimes it's hard to even have a response to that, but it's all right, man. If the one door closed, the other door open. If you have someone that is toxic in your life and you keep around because you don't have a lot of friends, buddy, we need to get you out there and start socializing. You can do it, right? But again, it takes that initiative. That's that fear, like relocate.
We talked about a guy who was like single looking for a girl. It's it's easy for him to move. He really just has to overcome this like mental block to just go out and do it. You've done it with family obligation. Now that opens up a new layer of responsibility. How do you make big shifts in your life so that you can be more in alignment when you feel that you have a family obligation, such as kids or such as sick parent or just parents are just getting old, maybe they're not even sick, and it's like you feel this tie. And I've heard that many times. I've heard that from very close friends too. It's like, hey, I would love to go live there, or I'd love to just travel with my girlfriend and work remote, but my parents live 10 minutes away from me and they're old, and I just can't see myself out living this life while my parents are here. I don't want to leave them. So family obligation, I think, opens up a new layer of complexity to living in alignment.
So here's my 2 cents on that. And sometimes my 2 cents might be not what a lot of people want to hear. But in life, we do make choices. Being a physician, I was one of the first things they ingrained in you is you have to make hard decisions sometimes. And sometimes there won't be anyone else around to say, it's okay, or it's not okay. You have to make a hard decision. Sometimes maybe a decision other people don't like, but you have to stand by it. So on that note, I'm an advocate that if for one time in your life, you have to be selfish enough to stop and get yourself right first. You have to get yourself honest with yourself. You have to be where you have some semblance of happiness and being and grounded before you can be worth anything to anyone. Now, if I'm miserable, which I was, I'm miserable. I'm not a great father. I'm not a great employer. I'm not a great husband, and I'm not a great friend. I know that. And I'm not blaming anything other than myself and not being able to be honest and go, no, I've got to make these changes and be selfish first so I can be a better husband. I can be a better father, a better employer, a better person. But that takes being selfish, and I had to deal with my children and their mom. And, it's 7.5 hours away. So it's one of the thought processes we had in moving too, is I don't want to move across the country. I want to move where I can drive a day and be there. But I also had to put myself first to say I need to be a better person. And the only way I could be a better person is to truly find some happiness, find some semblance of purpose. And I did. I'm a better father. I'm a better father now, a better friend, better employer. I mean, around the horn. And hopefully this is not as me tooting my horn, but it's like I had to go through a lot of crap. I had to get honest with myself and a lot of things. I wasn't living up to the obligations of father, husband, employer. I had to kind of swallow my pride and not in my ego and say I was screwing up a lot because I just didn't care, didn't matter right anymore. Well, now my life matters. My marriage matters. Where I live matters. My friends matter. My children. And so I challenge that. A long answer to a short question is I would challenge that when you really get happy and honest and grounded with yourself, it forces you to level up. There's no one else to level up. Come on, man. It's you that does it. You force yourself to be a better human. And in being a better human, better father, better husband, better employer, better person. Right now, we know the world could use a lot more better people. I think there's a lot of people who won't look at that. And that they can't get out of the starting gate without being honest with themselves.
So I'm getting, by being courageous and living in alignment and doing what is best for you, you will then show up more powerfully to the people you do care about.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I would say living 500 miles away from my family, I am 1,000 times closer to them than I was before when I lived 10 miles from them.
Wow.
Absolutely. It's, I know it sounds strange, but it's completely true.
And you connect that to living in alignment, or like doing what you needed to do for Ron.
Yeah. Living in alignment. Well, both living in alignment, but doing what was best for Ron. Because when you don't, guys, you'll just, for lack of a better explanation, you will be cynical with yourself. How many people have you heard, wow, I should have gone to law school, or I shouldn't have gone here, or I shouldn't have got married, or I shouldn't, but they stay in whatever that decision is. They stay being an attorney, or they stay in that marriage, or they stay at that job, and they just complain, or they don't even say anything. They just live, but that voice in their head's like, I hate this, or I shouldn't have done this. You have to eventually, you know, fish or cut bait. You have to eventually sit with yourself and be honest. I don't like this place. I don't like this marriage. I don't like this job. Okay, what are you going to do about it, Ron? Okay, I'm going to change it. I mean, that's one thing I love about teaching guys your program, your steps. I just was like, pin grenade, woo, and walked. And I'd say, not the right way to do it. No, because there's steps, right? And that's, I will tell you, it's not a ingracious plug for Project Grounded Man, but those steps that you lay out, that's what people need, man. I went to grad school. I got 3 degrees. There's no class I went to that said, okay, Sherrod, you're going to sit down. I'm going to tell you how life goes.
Mm-hmm. Powerful quote there on, I feel closer to my kids when I'm 500 miles away versus when I was like, what'd you say, 5 miles away? Because I'm now more in alignment. I'm doing what is best for Ron. Yeah. That's huge. That's very powerful. I think a lot of guys or parents need to evaluate that. Not that they have to like leave, but just really evaluate where that may apply. Is like,
well, you make better decisions for your group as a whole, I believe. I just, if I'm coming from a grounded place where I'm happy and I'm in alignment, I will make better decisions for my spouse, my career, my children, my family. If that makes sense. It's not made out of like, oh crap, or I have to do this, or I have to. We all get caught in that. I have to do this, and I have to do this, and I have to do this. You don't have to do a damn thing. I mean, you don't really. This world, you don't. You can just sit on the curb and be homeless. Look at Northern California. You got thousands. You don't have to do anything, but what you choose to do is important. You choose to move to a different place. You choose to be a better husband. You choose to be a better person by being honest with yourself. And it's hard now. Some of these conversations are, I always tell guys, I said, the hardest conversation you're ever going to have is when we get off this call and you go to use a restroom and flip the lights on. That person you look at is going to, you two are going to fisticuff, man. You're really going to get at it until, you know, the only way you know which one wins is the person who stays honest with themselves.
Yeah, I remember a call with a veteran who had fought in Iraq and Afghanistan. I remember him saying like, man, like living in alignment, doing the things that I know I need to do. And he had some big choices, some big life choices to make. And he was saying he would rather just be back in Iraq. He said, I remember him saying something along the lines of, it's easier to just fight and get shot at than to do that. Like, this is hard. Like, this is really hard. And I remember that really, all the guys on the call, and this is a guy who had been through several tours, and for him to say something like that, like, it's just easier just to be told what to do, and you don't really have to think. Like in some or many situations in the military or even in different employment, you just are told what to do and you're trained to go do it and do it well, and you're known and you get celebrated for that, and then you're done. You don't have to. He got out and he now had to face life without anyone just telling him, you do this, you do that, and then you'll get here. And that's how the military and many employment opportunities can be, where if you do certain things, you will then go here. You will then be here. You'll have this rank. You'll have this pay. You'll be able to do this. It'll open up this opportunity. Whereas sometimes to break out of that can be even more daunting. And he said being shot at is easier. I'm just told what to do. I know what to do. I'm good at it. And that had stuck with me. And I've shared this many times. That stuck with me. That everyone on the call was just like, wow, like this is real shit.
Oh yeah. I hear a lot of the military when people get out. I have my ex-brother-in-law was 23 years in the Air Force.
Okay.
And I remember having conversation with him for years because I come on, I mean, he got stationed in 5 different places in the world. I mean, great guy, amazing human being. I really, really enjoyed him, but he was fearful of leaving the military because it was also like, he didn't have to do anything. I mean, he was a hard worker and a brilliant pilot, just an amazing dude, but he didn't have to do anything. He didn't have to go figure stuff out. He got sent places and did things, and he was excellent at his job. Housing, everything was taken care of. But I was like, for a guy that, I mean, I really admired, like, this dude is like, flew some crazy stuff around this planet. Like, for him to be like, man, I don't know, it's just safe. It's just easy. because they just tell you what to do. I totally valid, because adulting's hard, right? Let's face it. I mean, look at the kids coming out now, 18, 19 years old. They're leaving the house. They have no life skills. A lot of them, I always make fun of. I feel like the old guy now when I look around, all the youngsters. But I do think there's,
I mean,
I do bad. It's horrible.
I'm starting to do that now.
But it's like, you look around, I'm like, am I that guy? Am I the get off my lawn guy now? Like I said, there's no class I took, undergrad or grad school, that was like, this is how life works. This is what you do. This is how you get honest with yourself. Adulting's hard. So I totally see the point. And I've heard a lot of military. Now, I've never heard anyone say they want to get shot at or would rather be shot at, but I can say there's been instances in my life where I would have been like, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah, adulting is hard, but to live in alignment like consistently. It's like sometimes guys, maybe in their 20s or even 30s, it's like they were making moves. They were going after things that they wanted. And then as the weight of life begins to mount, and then they start experiencing losses and business failures, career failures, and just rejections or heartbreaks, like the weight of life can really decrease the man's power or his ability to act on what he knows he wants in his life. And then that's that complacency and that stagnation that creeps in. When that kicks in, that can then exist. And it can be hard, I think, to bring that back. I think it's totally possible, especially when you're around other guys already, sort of everyone's doing that. And there's coaches and mentors. I think that is what we're doing here. Consistent evaluation of your life and realignment to do what is necessary is extremely challenging and courageous. But in it, I think you're living. I think you're like awake and you're conscious about, you're definitely just not in this like zombie derp state of just go like wake up, go to work, I do this, I drink on weekends. You're making moves that are for you. And that is so empowering.
Well, that is what you just said there is key. Like, you've got to make moves for you.
Make moves for you that are in alignment to you. Yeah, that's a foreign concept. If he's been serving others for so long, being a good, productive citizen and just helping out his family in every way possible, which is admirable and respectable, he can then sometimes lose sight of himself and who he is, or his identity is basically to provide it for others that he loves, which is admirable and respectable. From what I've seen, guys can then lose themselves. And I think just because there's a roof and just because you're putting food on the table, I don't know that is the, like, are you building a strong, like if you have a boy, like, is there a strong boy are you building a strong boy, or are you providing and giving him food and like a roof? From my experiences, I think this is another episode. I would really want to go into this deeper, but just from my experience is of dating a lot of women, I have noticed a very common correlation with her brothers, the girls that I'm dating, and their brothers, and how just weak and entitled and or just extremely problematic, where they're into drugs at a young age and they're just not doing anything with their lives. They're not really embracing this life, and how rebellious they are to their father. And then when I would meet the father while I'm dating this girl, I could just see why.
Weak father.
It's a weak father who has lost his power, but he did everything right from a provider standpoint. He was there as a provider, but he was not building, and or the girl whom would be extremely dysfunctional, which I would then later find out and why I'm not with them. But yes, I saw some stuff in the mother, but I can really think of women, like, just I'm thinking of their faces and just the correlation between how that interaction went with the father and where their son was at in life. And I was like, wow, there is a correlation here. A weak father equals, I think, chaos in the household, and a weak, rebellious son who, and or woman who's like on OnlyFans or doing crazy things and really in this dark, sinister world, and just like chaos. And I'm like looking at this father, I'm like, man, it's not only one girl, it's like I can think of like 7 different girls I dated where there was just such a strong correlation between weak father and chaos in the family, loss of masculine power. Yeah, go ahead.
It is. And part of it is being a leader, right? Being a leader by definition is making hard decisions and doing things and making decisions that are appropriate, not just for you, but for the well-being of the people that you're leading, i.e. family. And you just guys that just go along with it. I'm not slighting anybody. I know lots of guys like this. They just kind of go along. They got the job, they got married. They don't put a lot of work in the marriage because it's hard and there's problems, but that's hard. So let's ignore it. Work is okay, but it's hard, but they're providing. And that's I'm providing for my kids. I'm providing my house. I'm providing X, Y, Z. And they're talk about identity. They're so hooked on the identity that I put food on the table. I put a roof over it's not rocket science, man. It's not rocket science to put a roof over and put food on the table. What's rocket science is to show up and lead. And how you do that is you have to find yourself first. All these guys, a lot of guys I coach, 40s, 50s, 60s, they never found themselves. And they have that dysfunction. These are dads talking about their kids. And once they start to realize that I never led, I wasn't leading for a long time. I was absentee flying back and forth across the country, letting my wife and a nanny raise my kid. I mean, until I was like, this is stupid. I can go buy another house. I can get more money. I can go somewhere else and make money somewhere else. My identity is not tied to what I could put over a roof on the table or go into a job. That Protestant work ethic of work 50 hours a week until you're 65 and get a gold Seiko and die of a heart attack at 67 is not. We're so programmed socially that you must comply. You have to comply. This is what society says you should do. You should be married, white picket fence, 2 kids, dog, blah, 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 mortgage. But if that's not what you want, what are you doing? You have to, and I challenge, I have some friends that are dads, are awesome dads that are just, some are career guys, but some are entrepreneurs. And you could see the difference in a guy that leads his family.
Yes.
You see it. It trickles down into everything.
Yes.
That's what I want to do. To be honest, I want to be a better human for my family.
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's this almost entitlement of respect because I'm providing. It's like, hey, I'm providing, therefore, but I don't really have a connection, or I'm not teaching you about being a strong man, but I am providing, therefore I need you to respect me. And I remember watching the son and the father argue, and I remember just asking him on the drive back, like while the girlfriend was the ex-girlfriend, and I'm like, do you respect your father? Because he's telling you to do these things and you're not doing them, and he's telling you to do them over and over again, and they're pretty simple things. And he's like, absolutely, it's just instant, absolutely not. And just right from there, it's like, you can't, if someone doesn't respect, then you can't get this person to do anything for you. And so there's this entitlement of, I pay your bills, I do this, and he's paying his son's bills. His son's like 30. And that is, I don't know if that's old school, but like, if you're not leading, then there is chaos. And I think if we come back to taking care of you, I think we could then, like, do you admire your dad? Like, could you talk proudly about your dad?
Well, that's what I think a lot of kids can't. Like, they can't.
Yeah, I agree.
They can't. There's a whole thing about respect. You say, is it like an old school thing? It is. Remember, respect your elders, respect your elders, well, that's back in the day when I was a kid. Respect your elders. But my elders respected themselves. They didn't demand it. They earned it. I grew up ranching, cattle ranching. And I mean, I grew up where you did respect your elders, but my elders weren't dicks. They were out there working hard and cool people, and they were kind and family people. And so I kind of had a cool glimpse when I was a little kid of it.
Yeah.
But now respect is demanded, like not earned. And I can't buy into that mentality. It's like being a doctor. I have friends that will go to dinner and they'll say, oh, it's Dr. Shepard. I'm like, oh, really? This is dinner reservations, man. We're not doing surgery here. We don't have a surgical suite, but it's Dr. Shepard, not Mr. Shepard. All right. I just never could get past that, right? I could never get, who cares? Hey, you're a doctor. Great. We're not in practice. We're not in a hospital. We're not rounding. Come on, get with it. but they demanded respect. I went to school, therefore I need that respect. I don't think so. I think you earn it, whether it's earning it being a father, earning it being a husband, earning it being a friend. You've got to earn respect.
You show up.
Show up.
I think you show up. Really good. And once you take that first action, the smallest one, it becomes easier to take the next one.
Yep,
it's like
absolutely.
getting that momentum going. And so just start with small actions. It'll lead to more actions, and you're leaning in the right direction towards the ultimate goal that you want, or what is most in alignment. And for me, like, I am making a move right now. I'm not moving far, but it was just a very difficult decision because I live right by the beach and a wave that I surf. And it's a beautiful, a lot of my friends probably think I'm crazy, but I'm moving in another place that is more in alignment with where I should be and want to be. And just shooting the email to the landlord and just saying, like, this is where I'm at. This is what I like. That was just an email. I shoot emails all the time, but this one email, it then, once I did that, it was like the pressure of stress was like, and it was like, decision is made. I've shot this email. And then the next actions was like, okay, let's start selling stuff. And then just as soon as I'm seeing people come over and they're taking my dining table that I used to, this massive, awesome wood table, and I see this guy taking it, and I'm like, wow, this is happening. It's like, boom, once that's gone, I'm like, I'm selling that, I'm selling this, I'm selling that, and it's like everything, all this stuff is being sold. And I go to the utility company and I'm like, transfer service. It's like, this is real. Like, everything's really happening. It's like boom, 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 boom. And movers scheduled coming over. And it's like, this is happening. But I would have thought this was overwhelming, but it started with that email to the landlord of just saying, like, look, this is where I'm at. This is what I want. And this is where I want to go. Can you work with me on this? And the answer was the next day, yes, we can. You've been good. You paid. Everything's been good. So just was one little action that led to a series of many actions that I would have found previously daunting, overwhelming, too stressful. Now I'm having fun. I have someone coming up every day. I'm having people come over, and they're just buying stuff through this site. And I'm like addicted to selling stuff. I'm like
Andrew's auction yard.
Yeah. I'm like selling stuff I shouldn't even be selling. I'm like, this is fun. And I make way more money or just through business, but like the idea of getting rid of this stuff that is it just makes me feel lighter. Wow, this is going to be such a quick move. I'm so nimble. I feel so much more free. Like, I'm just getting rid of this stuff that really was just there and used just a few times a year when I would have big parties and stuff. And no one ever went in this room anyways. And I'm just selling stuff and it feels great.
It's a trip, man. Things are just stuff and things. Tangible. Man, I'm telling you, it's life is about experiences, and life is about people and relationships. And I don't know many people at the end of their life are like, yep, got 19 houses, got this and that. I mean, great. You did investment. You're good. But just the menagerie of stuff that you kind of glom onto, it weighs you down. I will go there and I'll leave it at that. I think it weighs you down.
Guys, for men who want to learn more about the work we're doing with Coach Ron, there's other coaches. You're seeing me interview them. We have hundreds of guys in the program. You can learn more at kfmcoach.com. Just check it out, see what we're doing. It's transformative.